This is Geometry Lesson 1.2, and in this lesson we're going to talk about angles. So again, I have some definitions that you can copy down. Pause as you need to. I'm just going to read through them. The first word that we're defining is angle. An angle is two rays that share an endpoint. So we have one ray here, we have one ray here. We call those rays the sides of the angle, and the endpoint that they have in common we call the vertex. When we name an angle, we usually use three letters, the vertex being in the middle, and then the points on the sides can be in any order. So I can call this angle ABC. I could also call it angle CBA. We'll talk more about naming angles in the examples. The next word is measure of an angle. The measure of an angle is the amount of rotation between the rays. So when I start with my angle, however much I open it up, think about it rotating open, however much it turns open, that's the measure of the angle. We measure angles using degrees. A degree is 1/360th of a circle. So if you can imagine taking a circle, taking a pie, taking whatever, and slicing it up into 360 equal pieces. One of those itty-bitty tiny slices would be a degree. We have a symbol for degree. We just draw a little circle after the number that shows 17 degrees, or however many degrees we're talking about. Our next word is protractor. A protractor is a tool that measures angles. Looks like this, if you've seen one before, and we'll talk about how to use those both to measure and to draw angles in the examples. Angle bisector is our last word that we're defining. An angle bisector is a ray or line or segment that cuts an angle into two congruent pieces. We talked about bisector yesterday, or in the last lesson, that it's two congruent pieces. So we have one congruent piece right here and one congruent piece right here, showing that this ray is definitely right in the middle of that original angle. Our first example is name all of the angles in the drawings. So I kind of tried to color code these. If you can see in black right here, this is the angle, and these are three possible names for that angle. I can call it angle UTV or VTU. As long as the vertex is at the center, I can put the points on the sides in any order. Since angle T is since this is the only angle that has a vertex T, I could just say angle T. But if there's ever a situation where there's multiple angles that share that vertex, you would never use one letter because I wouldn't know which angle you were talking about. So in blue right here, this is kind of what I mean. There are three different angles that share the vertex U. So I'm not going to just call this blue angle angle U. I can call it RUT or TUR. The vertex has to be at the middle. Here's a different angle that has the same vertex, highlighted in red. So that's again why I don't want to say angle U, because I could mean this angle U, I could mean this big blue angle U, I could even mean this angle over here that I didn't even highlight. But so in red I can say RUV or VUR, just make sure the vertex is in the middle. Couple more examples, only one name of each rather than several names, but in green right here I have XAY. YAX would also be acceptable. The A is the vertex. In blue, YAZ. A is the vertex. Also acceptable would be ZAY. And then in red is the larger angle. XAZ, also acceptable. ZAX, as long as the vertex is in the middle. Okay, now we're going to practice drawing some angles. So use the protractor to measure these angles as accurately as you can, and then after we'll draw. So I have that on one of these. How to use a protractor. So the first thing you need to do is take the hole at the center of your protractor, and you would line that up with the vertex of the angle. Then you would line up one of the sides of the angle with the 0 mark, and that could be on the left or the right. The third step would be to then see where the other side of the angle measures on the protractor. One important thing to keep in mind, and it didn't fit on the page, but is when you're reading the scale, notice since 0's on this side, I'm reading up to 34. If I had used the left side of my protractor, then I'd be using the top scale of numbers. So you can get protractors from me in my classroom if you don't have one of your own, but you will need one for this assignment. So the first example then was measuring this angle 1. So I have my angle 1 here, and I'm going to take my protractor and I'm going to line it up so that this hole at the center of the protractor is on the vertex of the angle. And then I need to rotate my protractor so that that side lines up with the 0. This one doesn't want to stay. Okay, so I have my 0 lined up with this side, and then wherever my other side points, that's my answer. And to me, that looks like it's about 36 degrees. 26, my bad. 26 degrees. Now, I wouldn't want to read the number in the 150s. Since 0's on the right side, I'm reading that lower scale there. So I got 26 degrees. My second example looks like that. I'm going to take my protractor and line up the, this isn't going to work. Line up the vertex right there. Then I'm going to turn it. That's why it's not going to work. Okay, that looks better. Okay, I have the vertex lined up with the center of the protractor. I have this one side pointing at 0, and then counting up from 0, I'm going to see where this other side points. So it's past 90. If you need to, you can take a straight edge and kind of extend that ray so that you can see it a little better. And to me, that looks like it's about 92 degrees. And my third example, angle 3 right here. Line up with the center on the vertex. Turn your protractor if you need to so that one side points at 0. And now I'll be reading on this upper scale here since I'm actually using the left side this time. And I am also going to extend that side to make sure that I get a nice straight line. And to me that looks like 167 degrees. Okay, so my final example was drawing angles. So we're going to start with this 125 degree angle. So to draw an angle, we need to make 3 dots. The first dot would go at the center of your protractor. The second dot, you can go left or you can go right, but you want to make another dot at 0. Then your third dot would be at the measure you're trying to make. So since I chose 0 on the left side, I'm going to follow my upper scale till I reach 125 degrees, and I'll put my dot there. When you have your 3 dots, you can slide your protractor out of the way, and you can use the straight edge of your protractor to draw your sides. Now, it feels like it's going to take up a lot of paper, but you don't have to draw your segment or your ray or your whatever, your side, all the way. What I like to do is I just take my straight edge and I draw along it so that I know that's the direction I'm going. But I can make that ray, that side, as long or as short as I want to. So I'm going to do this as I would on real paper, but I would utilize the straight edge of my protractor, and I would draw then a ray along that edge. And then when I take my protractor out of the way, that is my 125-degree angle. The next one that we were doing on the assignment was 55 degrees. So I'm going to do a 55-degree angle. And I'm just going to use the same, there it is, the same space, but a 55-degree angle. And I'll go with a new color so it kind of stands out a little bit. So here is a step 1. Here is my step 2. I can go on 0 on either side, left or right. I chose to go on the right this time. And since this is my 0, I'm going to count up till I see my 55-degree mark right here. And then again, I would slide my protractor and use the side of it to make my straight lines. I'll just draw them instead of using that tool this time. So there is one ray, and we're going to turn that and try to line it up. That's close. And then we will do our other ray here. So in red, I have my 55-degree angle for example B. The last one we have up there is a 72-degree angle. So we'll just go right there. First dot at the vertex, second dot at 0. Since I went to the left this time, I'm going to make sure that I use the upper scale, third dot at 72 degrees. Use the straight edge of the protractor to draw some sides, and then I have my 72-degree angle drawn. So even though the protractor is pretty big and takes up a lot of space on your paper, I was able to fit all 3 of my answers into a tiny space. So that is it for the examples. You can go on to the exercises. If you need any help, please let me know. If you need to borrow a protractor, come and find one in my classroom. They also sell them, at Target and places like that for $1. So good luck!